Shalom. Call y'all about Shalom to the left. I had some videos queued up while I was out, and I just happened to hop on here. I was ready to sit down and make a lesson, and this just popped up recently. And you got Creepy Joe talking this talk, man. Says, I'll let him know what I want, and I listen to this shit, man. That shit funny as hell, man. It's the pride of these damn devils.
In conflict with Russia. We're on a stable, predictable relationship. The United States will respond in a robust and meaningful way when the Russian government engages in harmful activities. I'm going to communicate that there are consequences for violating the sovereignty of democracies in the United States and Europe and elsewhere. I'm heading to the G7, then to the NATO ministerial, and then to meet with Mr. Putin to let him know what I want him to know. At every point along the way, we're going to make it clear that the United States is back and democracies of the world are standing together to tackle the toughest challenges and the issues that matter most to our future. That we're committed to leading with strength, defending our values, and delivering for our people.
Man, you sound bugged out, man. They got another devil just to speak for them and stuff. Anyway, pull these precepts real quick. I got some more videos to pull up as well. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 18. It says, pride going before destruction and the Holy Spirit before falsehood. You looking real prideful and haughty. Talking about somebody, let them know what I want to know. Meanwhile, you got these other Edomites over across seas. They play a whole different ball game now, and they don't mind wiping shit out if they got to. And the Most High gonna stir their spirit up even more to do so. They already been testing out them damn nukes over there. That's why so much stuff been happening across seas with the water, the land. A lot of earthquakes actually be tests for real. Let me pull this other video. Let me go to it. See, if I play this other video, yeah, a lot of people was like, oh, this guy, maybe he's gonna do this and do that. Hey man, he actually fulfilling the scripture right here. It says, in his heart, he was speaking out, in his mind, in his heart or whatever, he was speaking out salt. But war was in his heart. And that's the whole get down, man. It's in the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 21. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil. They were these drawn swords, man. Hey, this guy fit that perfectly. Talking all soft, acting like he could barely stand up and shit. All the time, they got a whole nother agenda. Simultaneously, the main part of this lesson I want to go into, that was just a little info that I just happened to see. Get a little laugh, but a little edification at the same time. But the main thing is, you got this guy right here, Bezos.
Meet your next pillow. Why do we make our pillow in the shape of a cube? I'll tell you.
Skip past that. Now you got this devil that made all this money. Step down. Now you want to go out of space. There's a deeper meaning on why you want to go out of space. I'm going to just play it and I'll pull some precepts.
You're the richest man in the world and you want to be an astronaut. What do? You buy a private space travel company and you make yourself an astronaut. And then to boot, you name your brother your co-astronaut. Oh, and if somebody wants to go up with you, all they have to do is outbid other millionaires and billionaires for the right to go up in space with you. This is all a far cry from the space programs that most of us grew up with, and which we thought highly regulated, governmental type of agencies. But this is how Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is going to space with his company, Blue Origin. Takeoff is now set for July 20th, about 2 weeks after his official resignation, interestingly enough, as the CEO of Amazon. Here is RT correspondent Trinity Chavez with an explanation.
Yes, and another thing I want to say as well, you have to pay attention to what these CEOs do when they start selling off all these stocks, or they start disappearing and shit and going underground, trying to go up into space, man. They know some shit, man. They know some shit about to pop off. So what they try to do, they try to gather all their goods and funds as much as possible. They try to disappear and hide out. Like the snakes they are, go in the hole and they try to slither back out. But these are modern snakes. These snakes, they trying to fly.
Jeff Bezos is going out of this world. Literally. He just announced that he'll be going to space next month, and he's not going alone. Brandon, you done?
See the Earth from space, it changes your relationship with this planet, with humanity. It's one Earth.
Today, Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos announcing that he will fly on the first passenger flight of the space company Blue Origin and lift off from West Texas. But he's not going alone.
I really want you to come with me. Would you?
Are you serious?
I am. I think it would be meaningful. Have my brother there.
The Bezos brothers will take off on July 20th, and if all goes according to plan, Jeff Bezos, who is worth $187 billion, will be the first billionaire space tycoon to experience a ride aboard the rocket technology he has spent millions developing.
I want to go on this flight because it's a thing I've wanted to do all my life. It's an adventure. It's a big deal for me.
Now, the capsule that's named the New Shepard rocket will take 6 people up, and while the trip is only 11 minutes long, there's an auction for just 1 seat, and people have been bidding on it. And now that 1 seat is up to $2.8 million. All the profits, though, will go to charity. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
Drats. I just learned that I got outbid. All right, joining us now, Rick Tomlinson, founder of Space Fund Venture Capital, and Aaron Pagel, who's the professor of strategy and economics at DePaul University. My thanks to both of you for being with us. You know, I'm struggling with this. I mean, I don't know if it's a giant ego trip for a CEO or something meaningful that he is using to set the example for the world and for other companies. Rick, you're kind of a fan of this guy. Why don't you start us off? What's your take on this?
No, I'm not really a fan, but we share the sort of same beliefs, right? By the way, there's a great documentary out about a book called The High Frontier that influenced Bezos when he was in his teens, when he had a book club. And his whole dream, his whole life has been about opening space to regular folks. So I'm happy to see him putting his, shall we say, his body where his mouth is on this. I do wish he was going a lot faster with his efforts to open space. You know, look, this is not rich boys in their toys. This is a guy who built his fortune so he can help make this happen. And I support that 100%.
That's fair. Professor, let me bring you into this, because I'm wondering, as I watch this maneuvering, whether it's the right thing for us as a society. Whether, I mean, if you need to, is he ready? Is he the right guy? Is he trained? When you're going to drive a forklift, you need a license, right? You need a special permit. Is Bezos qualified? Is his company qualified to do what it's about to do, or is it kind of dangerous?
Well, I think the framing that you have in that question is around what we typically think of for astronauts, right? You're going up in a capsule that's probably going to the International Space Station. There's going to orbit around the planet. This is a different type of vehicle. This is meant to be a tourist activity, right? Where you're sent up into space, you see the blackness, you see the curvature of the Earth, you experience the overview.
Yeah, 'cause ain't no fucking flat Earth. You niggas need to go take some trips.
Fact, which is what Bezos was talking about in his Instagram video. And that's what this is meant to be. So when it comes to, like, is he qualified or can they do this? Well, one, they've put a lot of effort into developing this technology. They've tested it rigorously. And I think it's actually saying a lot that Jeff Bezos wants to be on that first flight, that first manned flight, along with his brother. I don't think that this is an inappropriate use of that space, and I think it's a pretty big signal.
How much of this, Rick, is for, give me a percentage, between 0% and 100%. How much of this is publicity?
Oh, man, good question, right? Well, he's not a fool, this guy, right? So you can obviously see this. I would say 50-50. And look, he's got a big enough brand, but again, this is his dream for his whole life, right? This isn't like the yacht that he's buying or something. He wants to allow us to be able to go out there. Now, I'm sure he's going to get off a little bit on the fact that he's ransom. So, it's going to be fun.
This is kind of the battle of the billionaires when it comes to that one. But what about you, Professor? Do you think, because look, he could have gone out and gotten some nerd that no one's ever heard about, who's the smartest guy in the world, who's got all the scientific credentials, and instead he's sending himself. Great PR. We're all talking about it. The world is talking about it. How much do you think it's PR?
Remember, this is a tourist trip, so there's publicity to this. Musk has been riding that train for a very long time on hyping up space, and that's what Bezos is potentially doing here as well. And I mean, for the industry, we're getting eyes on it, and that's good.
More power to him, then. Yep.
Let me pause that. Let me go to this other video and I'll pull these presets. It's already digging underground trying to go into space, go into space, I should say. They ain't fun. This motherfucker, you think you really care about
Beijing, one of the 10 largest cities in the
You think you really care about people for real like that? That's a fucking joke.
world, and a hub of business and culture, home to most of China's largest companies, and with more billionaires living there than any city in the world, it's one of Earth's greatest metropolitan centers. But below the city, there's another city, with over 1 million people living in conditions that couldn't be further from the surface. Welcome to the underground bunker metropolis of Beijing. It all started in the Cold War, as many things did. China was a powerful nuclear-armed nation in the 1960s, but its role in the geopolitical conflict was dwarfed by that of the rival superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Many in China were worried that the tensions between these two powerhouses would boil over into nuclear war, as it almost did during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Chinese leader Mao Zedong was determined to do something about it. He ordered major Chinese cities to begin the process of building bomb shelters that could withstand a nuclear bomb. Beijing in particular went to war.
Let's see. Before I let this play some more. Yeah, all these other different nations cross seas. Like this one in particular, Russia. They've done their drills like during the Olympics. Or some other places over there in Israel, even the Amalekites. Other little places where they actually had these facilities. So when shit hit the fan, which it will, when that third wall kick off, and before this preset, when I say the first wall, the second wall is passed, but the third wall come quickly. So look at Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. It said the second wall was passed, and the third wall coming quickly, and that wall was talking about that war. Hey, these billionaires and shit, they ain't worried about your ass going down in the bunker or going up into space with them. You see, they bidding on a seat. Ain't no average citizen. They're not paying no $2-3 million to get on no one seat. So you think about that shit for a minute.
Work. After all, how many bomb shelters is too many for a city? How about 10,000? The city was ready for the inevitable, but the inevitable never came. Nuclear war never happened, and the tensions rose and fell as the Cold War eventually ended with a whimper rather than a bang in the 1980s. But as the Soviet Union faded and eventually collapsed, China's economy was growing, and more people from the outside world were starting to look at the country as the next big world power. All of a sudden, China's vast network of underground bunkers started to look like a necessity, and for some enterprising businessmen, they looked like an opportunity. Today, Beijing is a thriving city of over 21 million people. During the day, they all mill around the surface going about their day for work, school, and recreation. But the city's housing market is highly competitive and rates are high, and many people can't afford even the smallest apartment. So as night falls, roughly 5% of the city's population simply disappears from the city's surface, going to find their home in a very unconventional place. They're about to enter Beijing's secret underground city. In the 1980s, as tensions ebbed and China's leadership turned their eyes to the economy, many of these underground bunkers were leased by the Defense Department to private landlords, who converted them into low-cost apartments. They're mostly used by migrant workers and students who are far from home. seeking a low-cost place to live. There's just one problem. Housing laws in China are strict, and living underground has been illegal since 2008. That hasn't stopped many people from seeking refuge underground, as the government is rarely able to police the massive network of underground bunkers. So, what is it actually like to live in a Cold War bunker?
Well, hey, let me go to this other video real quick. Just play just a little bit.
Running a small business is incredibly challenging. We definitely keep growing.
Did you know that 77...
They just make that just for somebody to just come right out and all that shit. It's deeper than that.
Live from the world
Skip to the main part.
Leaders, the Pentagon.
That's all you hear in the news right now. They said it died down back in the 80s. Well, it's alive and thriving in these times right now.
Just how close we once came to an all-out nuclear war without even knowing it. Now, we always hear about the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, right? This was in October. But did you know that we likely came even closer to nuclear war 4 years earlier? We're going to detail for you how, in 1958, American military leaders pushed for a first-use nuclear strike on China, expecting and accepting the risk that the Soviet Union at the time would retaliate in kind, setting off a nuclear war. Now, what was the trigger for U.S. officials wanting to nuke China?
And this is what you got them talking about right now. This is going on in the news. Taiwan.
And the fact that at the time, the communist Chinese military was engaging in with its own military in the islands surrounding the area of Taiwan, just as you see it today.
You see, they've been taunting them. They've been playing games. Recently, I said maybe like, 2 weeks ago, they was talking about how they was selling weaponry to Taiwan to defend themselves against China, because what China's trying to do is make this the actual capital. And a whole bunch of other stuff they're trying to do as well, because you got trade routes, as you can see on this map. It's all about positioning, trade routes, and strategic positioning as well when it comes to military stuff. But leave it up to Esau. Esau always going somewhere and sticking their red feet on somebody else's property and want to claim shit and do business with them and actually turn the actual people of that land against their own people. So that's what's going on right now. But eventually, that's going to fizzle out. They're not going to actually be against each other. They're going to link up, as well as South Korea and North Korea. They're going to link up. You're going to have Iran and Russia. They already linked up. They just been sitting back, plotting.
So now ask yourself the following question.
Now all this stuff is not made up. It's not just some shit I went to sleep and said, let me wake up and think about how Korea will link up together. South Korea and North Korea going to link up, and Russia going to be a guard to China and Iran and Syria and all these other different nations. All this stuff in the scriptures, man. You just gotta read your book. You gotta dust that book off, open it up, and get into it.
What is going on right now that makes this information that I shared with you, that, by the way, is still classified. This information that I am sharing with you is officially classified. What makes it so important, so relevant on this day?
Well, I'm just pausing right there. That's all you need to say. We'll jump back into this real quick. Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. It says, the second war is past, behold, the third war coming quickly. Now, that third war is going to be fought with what? These nukes. And another name in the scripture for nukes is called arrows. According to this. This book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. And you got the title that says Babylon's fall is certain. Right here, when you go down to verse 11, it says, because you were glad, because you rejoice, O you destroyers of mine inheritance, because you are grown fat as the heifer and grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother should be sore confounded. She that bare you should be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. This is why they trying to go up into space. This is why they trying to go in the ground. They know about this stuff, no type of leaks. They have scholars as well. As I'm reading this, I bet your last fucking dollar that they read it too. Now it says, everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Because the earth is not going to come to an end. It's just Esau's world, his love. You know, people be like, oh, I'm in my own world sometimes. Hey, that's how Esau be. They in their own little world, so they shit gonna come to an end now. Now it says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. And them arrows, once again, like I always pull, just for edification's sake. You go into the military term for nukes. A missing nuke is called what?